Alliance is expected to announce a new federal council chairperson after 155 delegates of a council meeting vote this morning. All right, we've got Natasha Phiri live for us in Johannesburg. Natasha, a very good morning to you. All right, so what was very interesting that came out of yesterday's press conference, I guess it's interesting for those who didn't know, but apparently this happens generally in the Democratic Alliance with regards to the voting process. Please break it down for us. How does it actually work?
Well, very good morning to you, Blaine, of course, and our SABC viewers. Well, it's quite a confusing voting process. I mean, we also had to, spin our heads around this whole voting process. But I mean, I'm joined by Malatsi, who will actually explain what this STV process means. Basically, just to simply translate it, it's called a single transferable vote. And of course, we are told that members behind these closed doors have actually voted from around 7 to, 9:15 in the morning. Of course, the counting process is underway, and at 12 o'clock we will know who will emerge victorious and who will be announced as the new federal council chairperson. But to talk us through most of this, I'm joined by Malatsi. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you on the SABC. I mean, just also to take us through yesterday, what happened yesterday. You briefed the media. You had said that the organizational report was actually tabled. What came out of that?
Yeah, good morning, Natasha, and to all your viewers. So what happened yesterday, as expected, was that the review panel will present their report to the delegates. The delegates then had an opportunity to ask clarity questions related to the content of the report. Thereafter, the panel responded and they then had to leave. The panel comprised of Ryan Kotsie, who chaired the panel, the former leader of the organization, Tony Leon, and Michael Leroux, who were part of the three-man panel that obtained all the inputs from different people in the organization. So the second part of the day was basically members of Federal Council engaging the report behind these closed doors, as you indicated. The last item on the agenda towards the end of the day was an opportunity for the four candidates to address members of Federal Council about their individual manifestos and why they believed each of them was the right person for the job. This morning we began the process, as you pointed out in your introduction, with voting. It's indeed the single transferable voting system where delegates have 4 names on a ballot paper and they rank them by the order of preference. So whoever you want as the person, as the number one person, you rank them as your first choice, then the order goes that way until the last points. On aggregate, the voting will be done by a compilation of all those, and it's a very complicated system when you do the actual counting, but it aggregates the points based on the scoring system, and whoever is determined the winner based on the aggregates of those points prevails. Voting closed at 9:15, and now what we are having in there is that the presiding officer and her electoral team are doing the voting counting, which we anticipate that at least by 12 o'clock the result will be out in the rest of the country, as will members of the organization will know who the successor to James Self is. The discussions related to the review are still ongoing because the organization Federal Council is mandated to take decisions about what the review says and how to proceed forward with it. But by the end of those proceedings today, at the press conference we'll later be having, we'll be able to answer all these questions related in particular to what the review says and what the party has decided to do with the review going forward.
I'm glad you clarified, the voting process, but just going back to the report, the organizational report, I think 2 main things that came out of there. Party leader Mmusi Maimane had called for an elective conference, an early elective conference and a policy conference. What was the reasoning behind this? And furthermore, I think the pertinent issue is that the report had suggested that Mmusi Maimane step down as party leader. We've seen Paul Bowie step down as a CEO, and I mean, currently you're looking for somebody to actually replace him within the party. But I mean, Mmusi Maimane stepping down, how is that? What were the discussions around that and the deliberations around that?
Well, I think on the second part regarding the leader's future and the current standing, this discussion will have a position in a few hours' time about that particular aspect, without dwelling much into a process that is still underway in the other room. But the review will be able to, at the press conference later today, will be able to say, this is the input that came out of the review, and this was Federal Council's response to those recommendations. as explained in the resolutions that Federal Council will take, and that will be communicated to the media. What was your first question?
The policy conference.
Yes. So you will remember 3 weeks ago, the leader, when he first addressed Federal Council, he had pronounced that given the internal discussion about where the party is now, given the performance in the election and the debate that has been happening, which has been taking place in the public sphere, that the party should consider an early Congress, because Congress is where leaders in the DA are elected and some are not re-elected. That is the platform. The suggestion for a policy conference was again a proposal that the leader outlined yesterday in his remarks, to basically look at how we refresh our policies in response to some of the major topical issues that confront South Africa, because at any given time the party needs to refresh its policies, but also to reposition itself in response to the major developments that have happened. It is the first time in the life story of the Democratic Alliance that we have experienced a decrease in voters, in votes. Therefore, that presents an opportunity, and that is why the review was initiated, to introspect, to find out where did we come short, which has an impact on our electoral performance, and what is it that we need to do going forward in order to get back to the culture of winning votes and growing, because we are not in this to be in opposition permanently. We want to be a party that is in government ultimately nationally and run some provinces, and that's why we're in this business.
Lastly, let me not keep you for long. Just take us through the process. I mean, the Federal Council chairperson, I mean, what responsibility does this person actually hold? I think most South Africans are quite confused. I mean, there's confusion over the Federal chairperson and the Federal Council chairperson. What power does this person actually hold?
So the Federal Council chairperson chairs Federal Council proceedings, they chair federal executive meetings, they are politically in charge of the day-to-day running of the DA, overseeing the professional staff, overseeing the political activities across different provinces, overseeing the DA's political program of action in Parliament, across all legislatures, and also having the different bodies in the DA, such as the disciplinary committee of the DA, reporting to them and overseeing the work they do, particularly with regards to some of the legal initiatives or legal cases that the party might take in the public discourse. So it's a very, very senior role in the organization. It's largely politically administrative, it's largely in the background, but it is more about running the political and administrative machinery of the organization.
Thank you so much. We'll catch up with you at 12 o'clock when that announcement will be made. Well, Blaine and the viewers, there you have it. Quite a very powerful position, the position of Federal Council chairperson. And of course, just to remind the viewers, which people are actually vying for that top position. You've got the likes of Federal chairperson Ethel Trollip, former DA leader Helen Zille, Thomas Walters and Mike Waters, who are all gunning for that position. So we'll just have to wait for 12 o'clock to actually see who actually emerges victorious. And Blaine, quite an interesting point that you actually took us through yesterday, that, I mean, the two main contenders here is actually Ethel Trollip and Helen Zille. And of course, like you correctly cited yesterday, this is not the first time they actually face off. They faced off once again in 2007, back in 2007, where they were contesting for the party, leadership position. Of course, Helen Zille won. We don't know if it's still going to be her who actually, emerges victorious, or Ethel Trollip. But, either if it is either both of them, I mean, it would be quite interesting to see, what this person will do for the party, whether or not, if it's Helen Zille, whether their sound relationship with Mmusi Maimane will actually impact on the future of Mmusi Maimane. It would be quite interesting to actually see. So as for now, let's just wait for 12 o'clock, where that huge announcement will be made. And of course, as the SABC, we will be giving you the latest updates and developments in regards to the story. Back to you, Blaine.
That indeed we will. Natasha Phiri, live for us in Johannesburg. We thank you very much indeed for your reporting.